Hey math people. So if you've joined me so far in this integration technique chapter, you've seen the use substitution and the by parts. Well, are there more integral types? Absolutely. What we're going to do in the next two lectures is look at algebraic techniques that can help us solve integrals, and then trigonometric techniques that can help us solve integrals, and then that'll be mostly the techniques that we have at our disposal. But anyway, let's unpack this idea of what's going to happen today. You see here that at the beginning we have just some warm-ups connecting differentiation to integration. Who would have thought? And then we're just going to go by case, and then discuss all the different strategies that we may have in our disposal. Some of these, disclaimer, are Calc 1 integrals, and some of these are Calc 2 integrals. So towards the end, there'll be more Calc 2y, and technically at the beginning is Calc 1. Anyway, this video is for you, Eric. What does that mean? It means you should use the timestamps, pause when you need to, and be patient with yourself. Let's math. Okay, warm up. So what were the three main differentiation techniques that we did back in differential calculus? That wasn't the power rule. And then when did we apply each technique? Algebraically, what was happening in each of the scenarios? I'll give you a hint. One of them is chain rule. 3, 2, 1. So for chain rule, you had a function and a function. That's what it handled in that case. Product rule is when you had a function times a function. And then quotient rule, you had a function divided by a function. Okay. All right. We know a sort of kind of anti-chain rule. We know so that's the use substitution. We know a sort of kind of anti-product rule. That's by parts. What's left is sort of kind of the anti-quotient rule. I say sort of kind of strongly, by the way, not weakly, because there really isn't any anti-chain, anti-product, anti-quotient, but like generally if you see a quotient, here are some of the techniques that we can employ. Generally it will be algebra first. So anyway, if you were to just integrate both these, you already know how to integrate each of these scenarios. You know how to do both. So you know how to do both. So you do these. It's a hint. 3, 2, 1. It's a U sub. So U sub is still useful, even though these are quotients, and like technically it can be not necessarily seen as a function in a function, but in a quotient instead. That's why we don't have like the exact opposites of these rules, because that's just simply not how it works. The U substitution can work for quotient scenarios. That's the strategy here. So if you try the second one with U substitution, you'll end up getting this expression. So U sub is still good. Even though you get a quotient, doesn't mean that there's going to be some sort of new approach. It could still be just the good old same U sub move that we've seen before. All right, these next ones, I'm going to give you the hint that these are algebraic problems first. So you should do some algebra thing to each of these first, and then use an integral technique. So rewrite this expression, and then integrate thereafter. There is a simple way to rewrite. Please don't cancel these ones. Be mindful of dear Aunt Sally, your order of operations, right? And just a general hint, anytime I'm about to do like a thing that I'm not sure I can do, say for example, okay, so if you really wanted to cancel these ones out, just pretend that x is equal to 3. So you would have 3 plus 1 over 3 squared plus 1. Is that necessarily the same thing? If you did incorrectly cancel these ones, well, these are not the same things, right? These are different numbers. So anytime when I was a student in high school, just kind of solving these for the first time, I would be like, low-key, can I do this algebraic move? And then I would just check with numbers. So there's a different algebraic move here that you want to do. All right, I'm going to show you. 3, 2, 1. So you can split the fraction. So you can actually rewrite x plus 1 over x squared plus 1 as x over x squared plus 1, and then 1 over x squared plus 1. If you're not convinced, I can show you. So I know the true answer to this is 0.4, right? So I'll just do, let's see, I'll do 3 over 3 squared plus 1, and then b, which is, well, I did the first term over the bottom 2, and then the second term over the bottom 2, 1 over 3 squared plus 1. If you add a plus b, you end up getting that 0.4 value. So this is a little silly, I'm not going to lie. Like, this is straight up not what I'm trying to teach, actually, but you'd be very surprised, or not at all surprised if you're watching this video and you're like, oh, I really needed that. How many students like come to calculus without actually fully knowing algebra, which is the world we live in. It's what it is. All right, well, anyway, so after you split that fraction up, You can see here that a u substitution will handle the first one for you. For the second one here, well, this is literally just arctan. This is literally just arctan derivative, so antiderivative 1 over x squared plus 1 is arctangent of x. Don't forget your plus c. Splitting up the fraction can help. See if you can try out this next one. 3, 2, 1. All right, so for this next one, we can see here that splitting this fraction up will result in, well, another u substitution, but this time around, we see here that this x is still present after the u sub, so I can utilize my my u is equal to x plus 2 expression, so that would enable me to plug back in this u minus 2 for this numerator, and then again split the fraction. So I did 2 split the fraction moves within this single problem. Then I get 1 minus 2 over u, which, okay, well, antiderivative of 1 with respect to u is just u, and the antiderivative of 2 over u is, well, 2 log u, and then I know what my u is, x plus 2, so I plug those back in. This next expression is just another log expression. So final answer seen down below. The whole point is to split up the fraction. You would not have been able to do this. You cannot cancel these x's here, right? You cannot cancel these ones here. These problems are can be solved in other ways, but one technique that is useful is splitting up the fraction. All right, for the next little creative algebraic move that can be beneficial, let's try out an old school algebraic move. Old school algebraic move. If I were to remove this integral here and remove this dx and just give you this expression, there might be some deep down advanced algebra, college algebra, pre-calculus, whatever, instinct on what you can do with this expression to simplify or rewrite it. That expression can be written as, well, through the process of polynomial long division, the following. So if you remember polynomial long division, I'm about to show what this can be simplified down to, but I will go over it, assuming that you forget, because every year kids always forget. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you need polynomial long division here. Generally, in the cases where your numerator degree is greater than or equal to the denominator degree. So in this case, I am taking this x squared plus 1 as my divisor, and then this x cubed minus 3x squared plus 1 as my dividend, if you remember those words. And then you would think, what can I multiply x squared by to get to x to the third? Well, x squared times x is going to get that cancellation. You always want to cancel out the leading coefficients. So you would take this x, distribute to x squared, and distribute to 1, and then subtract that whole expression off from the dividend. Yeah, and then just rinse, repeat until you have a remainder, or you can't do that process anymore. So if you distribute this x to x squared plus 1, you get x cubed plus x. You can see here the x cubes cancel, and that is entirely the point. So then thereafter, I get, what is that going to be? Negative 3x squared, and then minus an x, and then plus this 1 here. So what can I multiply x squared by to get to negative 3x squared? Well, just a negative 3. So I would distribute that to both terms here. And then we can see here that these negative 3x squares cancel. That's the point. So that way I end up getting what is left here as a negative x, and then a 1 minus a negative 3 is a 4. So that's my remainder, because I can't, you know, what would I have to multiply x squared by to get to negative x? Well, like technically like a 1 over x kind of thing. And then now the more efficient process would be, this is still what I'm dividing out, and I'm still dividing out this x squared plus 1, so that is my remainder, right? So you're still dividing out that remainder from whatever that divisor was. Now the first two terms are very easy, right? Just anti-power rules. And then I can split the fraction. Sure enough, we need that move quite a bit within this remainder here to get, well, I have an arctangent within this expression, and then I have a u sub within this one into a natural log. You can see how these get fun real fast. But the point is that polynomial long division can help. I believe it can solve some of these integrals above as well. All right, so, oh, yeah, that's the whole point. So you again. So try this one out, but this time around with polynomial long division, and then that way you can decide which one is a little bit more manageable. Also, this one plays out very similarly to this one right here. So we're doing polynomial long division in each case. Give these a go. 3, 2, 1. So for the first one, you can see here that we ended up getting, after a polynomial long division, how many times, or what do you have to multiply x by to get to x? Well, just 1, because x is x. And then after that distribution of the 1, you just get that x plus 2, and you get a remainder of negative 1. Well, what this enabled us to see or do here is that this x now is no longer up in the numerator as a binomial, which is a good thing, right? I have just this 1, so the antiderivative of 1 is x, and then I have a natural log expression within the second. So it's the same answer here as this one. Oh, right over here. These are the same answers. So this is x plus 2 minus the natural log of x plus 2 plus c. This one is x minus the natural log of x plus 2. So wait a minute, these look different. Did I make a mistake? Not quite. This c value is just simply, because you have this plus 2 here, and c is a constant, is simply just a different c value than this c value. So in this case, I guess this c is equal to the other c minus 2, right? Just because they're off by 2. But either way, they're the same expression. Anyway, try out the classic polynomial long division within this one. This will play out very similarly to 3 here. So give this one a go, 3, 2, 1. You can see here that, yeah, polynomial longed it up. All right, so done with that. All right, the last little new move that I need to show is a method known as integration by partial fractions. And if you know of the partial fraction process, it's the idea of breaking down, I guess, a fractional expression into its parts, right? That's a great definition. So it's a technique that you probably picked up in either college algebra, probably like a pre-calculus, and I'm going to show you why it's useful right now. If I were to ask you to just integrate this expression right here, not too crazy, you're just going to get two different log expressions, right? You can see here that, well, you're getting 2 times the log of x minus 1, and then plus 3 times the log of x plus 2. All right, and then the second thing I just kind of skip through because I'm going to hope you remember this algebra from back in the day, that we can rewrite this expression using the LCD as this 5x plus 1 all over the square of x plus x minus 2. So keep this expression in mind, because what if I want to integrate it now? Well, technically, I know the answer to it already, right? Because I know that this expression is literally this expression. And I can do that substitution. And I already integrated it. It's right here. So yeah, here's the answer. Good to go. So then what's the problem? I see here that the integral of this expression is right here. The issue is, I know how to go from the parts to the whole, I guess you can say it that way, right? Just by multiplying to get some LCD and simplifying the top. However, to get from the whole to the parts, that requires a whole different expression. And that different expression is partial fractions. If you remember the process of partial fractions, you may have seen it in like a college algebra or pre-calc. And if you forgot, you're just like everybody else. So I'm going to go over it. I'm going to show you the main methodology to solving these, and then just like a shortcutted approach specifically for quadratics. All right, so let me show you the whole thing. It's going to look a little scary when I hit next, but trust, I'm going to go through it, okay? 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here's the process. Step 1 is to take the numerator here and to factor it. Not that crazy. And then just to think, well, I know I can rewrite this expression as the sum of 2 parts where each factor is one of those parts. I know it's simply possible. I don't know what those numerators are, but I know they exist. And then therefore, algebraically, I can say, well, this integrand must be equal to this integrand, which I wrote right here. And of course, you have a fraction is equal to 2 fractions. That just sucks. So what we can do is we can multiply in the LCD into all 3 terms here and just get a normal linear expression. Thereafter, we can do some kind of creative play by canceling out these terms. Technically, this is a like 3-variable equation in some way. So if I can cleverly cancel out 2 of them to get just 1 remaining, then that may enable me to solve for a and b. That process looks like this. You can see here that within this first term, I have a times x minus 1. Well, if I set x equal to 1, that would cancel out this to be a 0. This purple expression would be a 0, and a times 0 is just 0. So then I would just be left with, well, whatever this left side is equal to with x is equal to 1, so 6, and then that's equal to b, and then plus 1 times 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2, which is 3. There it is. So I'll show you that process right here. You can see here when I set x equal to 1, this whole term cancels, and then I can I get 1 plus 2, and that's a 3b, and that's equal to 5 plus 1, which is 6. Divide both sides by 3, and you end up getting b is equal to 2. And then you just have to do the vice versa process. So if I want to now cancel out my second term, I would have to substitute in a negative 2 for x, and that would make this whole b times x minus 2 go away. So then thereafter, I'm left with this expression, and I can divide both sides by, in this case, it looks like a -3 to get an a value of 3. Plug those back in for the a and b up top, and then we just end up getting the same expression that we integrated before, just those two different logs. So the hard part here isn't the calculus. The calculus is actually just this single step right here. The rest of this is all algebra, and that is that, and that's such a common story in this class, you know. All right, so here's a shortcut approach for this. What you can do instead is you can just, so I would say probably like print screen this right now. I got to look nice and pretty. Print screen this right now and then follow these steps. This could help you just solve out specifically quadratic denominator cases. So on the AP Calc BC exam, we only ask quadratic denominators. So this works for those, but if you get like cubic or quartic denominators, it depends. Depends on how it factorizes. So this is just a nice shortcut for AP Calc BC. Okay, so I'll show this process. You factor the denominator, choose a value that makes the denominator 0, remove that factor from the expression, and then evaluate that expression with that value in mind. It's your numerator of the removed term. So I'm going to show you that right now. So first step, factorize this denominator, right? So you should get x and then times x plus 4. So I'm going to show this process right here. X and then times x plus 4. So the process looks like this. What would I have to plug in for this x to make this denominator 0? Well, 0, of course. So if I remove this and I plug in 0 into what is remaining, you can see here I'll get 0 plus 12 over 0 plus 4. 12 over 4 is 3. That goes on top of the removed term. And then the next step is to consider the other factor and to think what would make this factor equal to 0. Well, a -4. So then you would plug in a -4 into what remains, the x plus 12 over x. So -4 plus 12 is 8, and then 8 over -4 is a -2. And that's what goes over the x plus 4 factor, I guess you can say. Then it's just log, and then you get your final answer. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to factorize this denominator. And then, so this is where like teaching with a cursor is like definitely not very useful. I like to physically, like with my hand, like place it over this x and place it over this x plus 4, and then just plug in, you know, that number that would have made that factor a 0. So see if you can try out this process on this last one here. 3, 2, 1. You can see that this denominator factors out as 2x plus 1 times x minus 5. And you do get some quirky looking numerators here, but it's not that crazy. Because if you consider, let's do this one first. What would make this factor equal to a 0? It would be a 5. So you get 5 plus 3, which is an 8. And then over 2 times 5 plus 1, that's an 11. That's what's going to go on top of the x minus 5 factor. Now this other one's a little spicy, but not really. You can see here it's just going to be a -1/2. So if you plug in a -1/2 into this x plus 5 over x minus 5, or x plus 3 over x minus 5, there it is, you would end up getting 2.5 over -5.5, which is the same thing as 5 over -11. So that would be the coefficient for this 1 over 2x plus 1 expression. Thereafter, just be mindful that you do have a little u sub here because you have 2 in front of this x. So you would have to be dividing by a half up front, or you can just do a u sub if you don't see it within. I like to call this like an in-your-head u substitution moment because it's just a linear expression, right? Just by chain rule, you would be multiplying this by 2. So anti-chain rule would be like dividing it by 2. That's why you see instead of 5 over 11, 5 over 22. All right, that's it. So we know all these new techniques. Just to kind of recap them, it's partial fraction as the BC or Calc 2 move. Then it's polynomial long division. This is like a Calc 1 move, technically. Sometimes it's covered in a Calc 2, so polynomial long. And then splitting the fraction, this is always useful. This is useful in Calc 1 and Calc 2 for sure. Okay, that's it for today. Math on.